Another day, another day. So it's Wednesday, and I thought the sun was going to be out today, but it decided to rain, which is totally cool. I don't mind the rain. What I'm going to talk about today is the power and the, I would say, elusiveness and of anger. Anger is, for me at least, I'm gonna speak from my perspective. Anger can be very unpredictable. Obviously, you hear stories all the time of people doing things out of anger. But when you're not necessarily aware that you're angry, that could be just as bad. For the longest time, I went without realizing that I had anger, that I was angry, because growing up, I seen how bad anger can make situations. I've seen how anger can turn, a decent situation even worse. So what I did, unconscious to myself, was to kind of hide that anger. Whenever I felt anger bubble up, I would just kind of push it down and suppress it. And for me, I thought that was dealing with it because it never really manifested itself in any other parts of my life. But as the years progressed, in retrospect, I do remember times where I might have said things that were extremely sharp. I at times know exactly what to say to really hurt somebody's feelings. And I remember I did that to a supervisor I had years ago, and I don't know why. It just felt like the right time, and in my head I thought, well, I think he needs to know about himself. So I went ahead and aired everything that I could think of out, said all the hurtful things, and all the things could be perceived as true. It was work related, and I told him that he was a horrible supervisor and all these things that I know hurt his feelings. He had glasses on, but I'm pretty sure he started crying in the car once me and him had our conversation. And I didn't feel anything after that. But I say that to say that if your anger manifests itself subconsciously, you will do things out of that anger and potentially try to justify it as you being right. Or it might manifest itself as anxiety. Because another thing that I noticed is, as a man, you might find yourself depressed or sad about a situation. And a lot of times that sadness and depression can manifest itself as anger, because you're angry because the situation isn't going your way. So at the same time, you're upset and depressed, and you're volatile. And at times I didn't realize how volatile I was. I didn't even think I was depressed. But in retrospect, I wanted control. I wanted control of my life, and I didn't feel like I was in control of many aspects of my life, if any. Not even my own autonomy, because for a while I was unemployed. And when you don't have any income, you definitely don't have much autonomy. You can't do almost anything that you want. You can't take your significant other out on dates. You can't buy gifts for your kids. You can barely afford to keep gas in your car. And those type of things will affect you if you don't take initiative and do something about it. For me, I got myself into a situation where I thought my presence was more important than my income. So I found myself, spending a lot of time with my kids at home, unemployed, but that doesn't pay the bills. That doesn't feed the kids, and at times it felt great. I get to spend time with my kids. But then when you realize that you can't even provide them a meal, that upsets you. That upset me. That hurt me to my soul. And it made me angry. It made me angry, and it's so strange because you don't realize how angry you are. You just see it as you might be sad or just feeling anxious, but it's actually anger. It's actually anger. But again, in my case, it was actually anger. I thought it was just anxiety, but it was really anger. And it wasn't until recently that I realized that anger can take so many different forms, and it presents itself so many different ways. Growing up, I was the youngest of three, and I was always held myself to a particular standard where, Brandon's cool, Brandon's easygoing, nothing upsets Brandon. Yes, it does. A lot of things did. But I suppressed it or tried to avoid it. It's like playing dodgeball. I see the anger coming, I'll try to get out the way, or I'll try to catch it and throw it back. But yeah, it wasn't until recently I realized that I actually am a very angry person. And which isn't necessarily a bad thing if you're aware of it. I wasn't aware of it. If you know you got anger issues, then a lot of times you know how to mitigate it. Some people don't know how to mitigate their anger issues. I didn't know I had them, and I didn't know how to mitigate them. And it left me in a really, really tough spot. I began to exhibit a lot of pessimism. I was extremely pessimistic, and I focused on the negative aspects of why things weren't going my way, why I wasn't in control, and latching on to those negative aspects is almost like they manifested themselves and created situations that were, again, unfavorable for me. Especially in the last few years, there was 1,000 things I could have been gracious for, a lot of things I could have showed gratitude for, but I didn't. And I don't know why. I got a few ideas of why. And I've been doing a lot of introspective thinking and talking to the right people. And one situation that caused a onset of anger would be sticking too desperately onto the past, things that are in the past that you can't change anymore. I was latched onto the past in certain situations, and that didn't make me happy. I would just sit there and dwell on things that I could not change. I was dwelling on things that I could not change and that were not in my control, and it made me upset. But it wasn't until recently where I was really able to get to a point where I'm able to let a lot of things go. And it's a blessing for me because, it almost seemed like it happened overnight. And which isn't too unfamiliar to me, when it came to a lot of things. Like, I used to smoke. I was smoking since I was like 11 years old. And then one day I just had a situation where I realized this isn't it for me. And the same thing happened with alcohol just last year. It was like almost 2 years ago. I had a situation like, this isn't doing anything for me. What am I doing? I don't need this. And this anger thing, it got to a point, I'm like, what am I doing? I don't need this. I don't need to be angry. I don't need to hold on to the past. I can just accept things the way they are, especially if I can't control them, and let it be. Because sitting there trying to force something that just doesn't want to move is gonna upset you. You can't force anything that doesn't want to move. Just like the old expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. It's amazing what you really realize about yourself when you are at rock bottom. One of the things that can happen at rock bottom is you could try to pull other people down with you. either intentionally or unintentionally. You can pull people down with you. You're vibrating so low that anybody that gets close to you is affected by it. I'm climbing up finally. I'm finally climbing back out of there. A big part is me exercising every day. I wasn't exercising. I was stagnant. I wasn't exercising, writing, reading, going to work every day. Setting a routine has been so paramount to me. Like it has made such a huge difference in the way I act. And obviously cutting out alcohol, which is going to exacerbate how you're actually feeling at all times. If you're angry, no, you will turn into Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I knew that alcohol wasn't good for me, but I kept drinking, to the detriment of myself and other people. Substances just aren't good for me. I don't do anything anymore, and I'm happy to say that. I don't regret stopping anything. It's not good for me. I don't miss it. It's been 10 years since I smoked weed, and I don't know. I finally feel like I'm in charge of my own life. Not to say that I haven't been, but you know, I didn't really look at the long view of the actions that I was partaking in, and some of the things that I was doing that was affecting other people so drastically. I got kids to look after now. I got kids to raise and take care of. I got to take care of myself first. Otherwise, how am I gonna take care of my kids? So being responsible and taking care of your priorities or responsibilities. I know it sounds trivial, but I mean, you could go to work every day and still not take care of responsibilities. You could be the best employee ever and still not take care of your responsibilities. I did, but not to the fullest of my capabilities. You know, my kids are good. My kids are thriving. I got a great family. So, you know, they help me out a lot. But yeah, basically I just said all that to say, if you think that you have anger issues, address them, acknowledge them, and don't push them to the side or try to bury them, because they will present themselves in the worst situations and they will turn your thoughts negative. Seriously. But like I said, I think exercising has helped out so much. Definitely helped out a lot. Anyway, that's my video. It's my little rant. So